Good morning. Today we are starting with chapter 20, Locomotion and Movement of class 11. Movement, we already know, is a very important feature of the living organisms. Animals और plants दोनों में ही अलग अलग तरह के movements होते हैं. साइटोप्लाज्म में जो स्ट्रीमिंग मूवमेंट है, दैट इज ऑल्सो वन ऑफ द इम्पॉर्टेंट फीचर ऑफ द अमीबा. is a simple form of movement. सीलिया, फ्लैजुला, टेंटिकल्स, अलग अलग ऑर्गेनिजम्स में अलग अलग तरह के मूवमेंट्स शो होते हैं. ह्यूमन बींग्स भी अपने लिम्स, जॉज, आईलिड्स, टंग एट्सेट्रा मूव करते हैं. एंड दीज टाइप ऑफ वॉलंटरी मूवमेंट्स दे आर नोन एज लोकोमोशन. Walking, running, climbing, flying, swimming, these are other forms of locomotory movements. So locomotory structures, they are needed by different organisms to produce different types of movements. Paramecium में cilia होते हैं, hydra में tentacles होते हैं, and we also use limbs for changes in the body posture and locomotion as well. So movement और locomotion separately हम study नहीं कर सकते. So these two may be linked together. And we say that all locomotions are movements, but all movements are not locomotion. So locomotion which is performed by animals related to their habitats and the demand of the situation. Locomotion generally is for the search of food, shelter, mate, breeding grounds, favorable climate, or escape from enemies or predators. So in this chapter we'll be covering all these topics: types of movements, muscle, structure of contractile proteins, mechanism of muscle contraction, skeletal system, and disorders of muscular and skeletal system. Let's start with the first topic, that is types of movements. Cells in the human body exhibit three types of movements. One is amoeboid, ciliary, and muscular movements. So in some specialized cells in our body, or in the macrophages or leukocytes or the blood, in the blood, they show the amoeboid movements. We already know how the amoeba moves through the pseudopodia, capture the food and performs its functions. So such similar types of movements are there in the macrophages and leukocytes of the blood, which shows amoeboid movements, and they are affected by the pseudopodia. We already know what are pseudopodia. These are the structures which helps in the engulfing of the food through the process of phagocytosis. Cytoskeletal elements like microfilaments, they are also involved in the movement in the body of the amoeba. So second type of movements are the ciliary movements. You can see in the picture. Ciliary movements, they occur in most of the internal tubular organs which are lined by ciliated epithelium. Okay, you've studied in 9th class how the ciliated epithelium is there and how it performs the function through the cilia. So all these cilia in the trachea, they helps in the removing of the dust particles, foreign substances which are inhaled through the atmospheric air. So this is how the beating of the cilia in the direction of the locomotion. In the aquatic organisms also propulsion of water takes place, and they produce a kind of a wave which helps in the movement or locomotion of the organism. Now in examples we are studying here in the ciliary movement is in the case of we know that passage of ova through the female reproductive tract, that also involves the ciliary movement. Third type of movement is the movement in our limbs, jaws, tongue, etc., which require muscular movements, and the contractile property of the muscle cells, that is involved here for the locomotion and for the movements in the human beings, because in the multicellular organisms we know that muscular structure is there, and locomotion requires a perfect coordinated activity of the muscle, skeletal, and the neural system in our body. So in this chapter we are learning about various types of muscles, their structure, mechanism of their contraction, and important aspects of the skeletal system. Now let's talk about muscle. Now cilia and flagella, they are the outgrowths of the cell membranes, and the flagellar movements they helps in the swimming of spermatozoa, maintenance of water current in the canal system of sponges, and in the locomotion of the protozoa like euglena. एंड मसल्स जो है वो एक स्पेशल टिश्यू फॉर्म करते हैं. दे आर ऑफ द मीजोडर्मल ओरिजिन. मसल्स दे आर मीजोडर्मल origin. We know that organisms they derive their structures from three germinal layers, so that is why they are called as triploblastic organisms. So here through the mesodermal layer we know that these muscles they originate. They are mesodermal in origin, and 40 to 50% जो हमारे body weight है adult, it is contributed by muscles. So उनकी special property होती है excitability, contractibility, and they perform the elasticity also, and they are classified using different criteria on the basis of their appearance, regulation of their activities. We classify them into three types. These are skeletal muscles. Skeletal muscles, they are closely associated with the skeletal movements. Okay? This you have studied earlier also in your classes, that they are also striated muscles, and they are voluntary. They control, involved in the locomotory action of the various body parts. Second type of muscles are the visceral muscles or smooth muscles, and they are present in the inner organs of the body like alimentary canal, reproductive tract, and उनमें कोई striations नहीं होती हैं. They are smooth in appearance, and they are also called as smooth or non-striated muscles. They actually help in the transportation of food through digestive tract, gametes, movement of gametes in the genital tracts, etc. That is controlled. Third type of muscles we have studied already is about the cardiac muscles. These are the muscles of the heart. They have a branching pattern, and they are striated, and they are involuntary, and they does not control the activities directly. So a skeletal muscle का हमें यहाँ पे example लेंगे और उसको detail में पढ़ेंगे. So in the detail we understand the structure or mechanism of contraction. Each skeletal muscle in our body is made up of number of muscle bundles, or which are called as fascicles. और वो सारे they are held together by a common collagen connective tissue which is called as fascia. Each muscle bundle contains a number of muscle fibers. You can see here in the diagram also, each muscle bundle contains a number of muscle fibers. Now here we see that each muscle fiber is lined by a plasma membrane which is called as sarcolemma. ठीक है, यहाँ पे जो इनकी plasma membrane है उसको sarcolemma भी बोला जाता है. And the endoplasmic reticulum which is present in the muscle fiber is known as sarcoplasmic reticulum. They store the calcium ions, and these muscle fibers they have parallelly arranged filaments in the sarcoplasm generally, which is called as myofilaments or myofibrils. Okay, these are called as myofilaments or myofibrils. Now these myofibrils they have alternate light and dark bands, and in detail we study the myofibril. Their appearance is the distribution of these two important bands which are called as actin as well as myosin. You can see here these are thin filaments and these are thick filaments which are called as actin and myosin. So the light bands contain actin, and they are is also called as I bands. You can see here I band, and or it is also called as isotropic band, whereas the dark band or anisotropic band which contains myosin. So both the proteins they are arranged in a rod-like structure which are parallel to each other, and they are also to the longitudinal axis of the myofibril. Actin filaments they are thinner as compared to the myosin filaments, so they are commonly called as thin and thick filaments. Further we see that in the center of each I band is an elastic fiber which is called as the Z line. You can see here Z line. So this thick filament in the A band they are also held together in the middle by a band of a thin fibrous membrane which is called as M line. Okay, here it is called as the M line. So the A and I bands, they are arranged alternately throughout the length of the myofibril, and the portion of the myofibril between two Z lines is called as the functional unit for the contraction, and it is called as a sarcomere. So this whole structure is a structure of a sarcomere. Now in the resting stage, the edges of the thin filament on the either side of the thick filament, they partially overlap each other. And in the resting stage, and the thick filaments, they're leaving the central part of the thick filament, and this central part of the thick filament, it is not overlapped by the thin filaments, which is called as the H zone. This zone is called as the H zone. So I hope you understood the structure of a sarcomere. Okay, what is the meaning of a myofibril, and what are the two proteins which help in the building of this muscle fiber. So once you understand the structure, we'll discuss the functioning of the sarcomere. How does it function? Thank you.